The story begins in a peaceful lake, where a young boy called Alec sits with his fishing rod. A strange magician called Eldaz asks the boy if he wants to learn magic, and they begin training together. To start training, Eldaz hangs a target in front of Alec and tells him to concentrate. He describes a vivid story, helping Alec believe he's stuck in a situation where he needs magic to save his friends. With intense focus, he summons a fire circle, and his teacher guides him to calm down and release it. Once Alec is relaxed, he releases the fireball and hits the target. He feels happy to have mastered the spell and tells Eldaz it was more difficult than normal spells. However, Eldaz reminds him that it takes regular people a month to learn a single magic spell. While Alec mastered in just one day, motivated by his success, the boy feels eager to learn more spells, reminding him to rest. Eldaz tells him to stop training and fish for the rest of the day. Alec sits down to fish, but feels disappointed that he's not learning more. Eldaz tells him not to rush the process, saying that he'll naturally become a top magician because of his incredible talent. Surprised, Alec asks Eldaz if he even needs his teaching, but Eldaz remains silent. Suddenly, a large fish starts struggling on Eldaz's line, and he changes the topic. Amused by Eldaz's incompetence in fishing, Alec helps him catch the fish. Both of them pull hard, and they fall back down from their effort, having reeled in a flopping fish. Seeing the fruit of their effort, both teacher and student start laughing. The next day, Eldaz gives Alec a book to study magical formulas. Alec finds it difficult to understand it, so Eldaz starts teaching him the patterns in the formulae. Spend their days together. They study the intricate formulas until one day it starts snowing. Alec interrupts Eldaz's lesson and hits him with a snowflake, and they start having fun in a snow fight. However, their happiness is short-lived as Eldaz decides to leave for the capital in the summer. Alec feels sad that he won't see him again, and Eldaz warns him to never become a court magician. Feeling confused, Alec asks why he taught magic to him, so Eldaz reveals that he was repaying a kindness from Alec's late mother. After his final words, Eldaz turns around and leaves Alec behind. Many years later, Alec is studying at the Royal Magic Academy. Looking through the student records, he finds out that Eldaz graduated as a top student and became a court magician. However, Eldaz was later banished from the court, so Alec feels furious at the royal court. To repay Eldaz's kindness, he decides to change the court by becoming a court magician himself. Sometime later, Alec is working as a court magician in Crown Prince Regulus's party. After a fierce battle, the prince turns around and fires him from the job. Shocked, Alec asks him why he's kicking him out, and Regulus asks him to state his job duties. Alec says that his job is to help the prince with magic, so Regulus reminds him that he failed this job in their previous battle. Regulus points out that he fights at the front lines as a swordsman, while their mage Lenny unleashes powerful offensive spells, and Ix, the tank, guards them from enemy attacks. However, he thinks that Alec's support and enhancement spells are completely useless for their party. Alec tries to explain why he only uses support spells, but Regulus interrupts him and mocks him for being weak. Lenny also chimes in and taunts Alec for always being passive and trying to avoid dangerous situations. She reveals that she always hated Alec's cowardly attitude and only accepted him because Regulus accepted him to the party. With Regulus's open rejection of Alec, both Lenny and Ix feel free to cast him out as well. Regulus says that he saw potential in Alec since he graduated as a top court magician, but now thinks that he only bought his way to the top. Once again, Alec tries to defend himself, but Regulus notices a dagger on his belt and snatches it away. He scolds Alec for carrying a weapon, saying that he doesn't allow commoners to own them. Alec says that he was only preparing for potential dangers, but Regulus grabs his collar in fury. He thinks that commoners are a bunch of idiots who can't listen to basic orders, and Alec grows quiet. Regulus yanks Alec's magician's robe off, saying that he doesn't deserve the position of court magician. The prince's harsh words send Alec into a silent panic, and his party heads into the dungeon, leaving him behind. Afterward, Alec heads back home to study the dungeon. Knowing that the prince lacks the magic strength to face stronger monsters at level 30, Alec takes extra precautions to protect him. He leaves for the capital and asks the royal guards to let him inside, but they refuse, reminding him that he lost his court magician title. As the guards point out that commoners aren't allowed inside, Lenny comes out and starts mocking Alec again, mentioning rumors of Alec entering level 67. She thinks that he just made up some stories to sound powerful. As she heads back in, Alec starts following her, but the guards block his path. Then, Alec holds out a scroll and begs Lenny to deliver it to the prince. She turns around and takes the scroll, and Alec thinks she'll at least complete this small favor. However, Lenny coldly smirks and rips the scroll apart in front of him. Turning back around to leave, she tells the guards to get rid of him. Afterward, Alec heads back to town, feeling sad that he couldn't change the royal court even after 4 years of struggles. While he's lost in thought, Alec's former party leader called Yorha notices him standing there. He turns around around to look at her, and she quickly rushes to hug him. The two of them sit down together, and Alec tells Yorha about everything that happened. Understanding why he's feeling depressed, Yorha feels angry that the Galdana Kingdom's court is so unreasonable, as she complains about their obsession with segregating commoners and nobles. Alec feels worried that someone might hear. However, Yorha points out that they're alone before remembering Alec's suffering. He tells her he'll be fine, and she feels happy that he got kicked out from the prince's party. This confuses Alec, so Yorha reminds him that she made a promise years ago to recruit him back to her party. Saying that she came to the capital just to recruit him, Yorha gets up and asks Alec if he wants to join her party. As he stares in shock, Yorha asks him again, saying she needs his power. Alec is overwhelmed by emotion and reminds her that the court banned him for being useless. However, she simply laughs and says it doesn't matter. She tells Alec that her entire party has been waiting for him to come back. Remembering Alec's potential, she tells him he can become a court magician again if he doesn't want to join her. Tears appear in Alec's eyes, and he gets up to join Yorha's party. She smiles and wishes the best for their future adventures, welcoming Alec back to the ranked party called Lasting Period. As Yorha holds his hands, Alec feels glad to return to his old friends. Afterward, they start heading home together. Sleeping in his carriage, Alec remembers Eldaz's warning to never become a court magician. As he wakes up from the dream, Yorha tells him that there is still some distance from their hometown. Fizzle. Alec nods, but stays awake, which worries Yorha. Alec explains that his situation played out just as Eldaz warned him, before heading back into thought. Meanwhile, in the royal capital, Prince Regulus learns that Alec has left their kingdom. After Lenny tells him that Alec has become an adventurer, Regulus mocks Alec for claiming to be the biggest genius of the Magic Academy, as he thinks that Alec is a coward for running away. Lenny offers him a drink to celebrate their new party member. She thinks that the new member is a great addition because he's a brilliant talent from a noble Duke Fornius's family. Regulus accepts the drink and takes a sip, while Lenny glazes him and acts like they'll conquer the whole dungeon with their strength. As the drunk prince laughs arrogantly, Alec and Yorha finally return to their hometown. Fizzle. Alec feels happy to be surrounded by so many adventurers, and Yorha tells him that they'll explore a dungeon to the city's west. Before heading out, Yorha remembers to get Alec registered at the Adventurers Guild. After they enter the Adventurers Guild, the receptionist informs them that they need a special license to explore dungeons deeper than level 30. She also explains that only the adventurers who've been registered for 2 years can get the license. Yorha feels upset and asks the receptionist why her party member Kraja didn't get the pass for them. The receptionist explains how Kraja threatened the guild to just hand out the pass, leaving Yorha completely embarrassed. Afterward, Yorha sits down to eat with Alec. Upset that Kraja messed up her job, she takes a bite of her sandwich, complaining that they can't wait 2 more years to enter the dungeon's 52nd floor. However, Yorha cheers up after finishing her food and decides to explore easier areas for the time being. Alec feels surprised, but she explains that it'll be a good warm-up for their serious adventures. Cheered up, Yorha gets up and tells Alec to enjoy his time with her in the City of Dungeons. After lunch, they head out to a dungeon, where a swarm of monster bugs surrounds them. Yorha casts some defensive magic on Alec, who rushes forward and cuts down the bugs. Yorha feels happy about their teamwork, but points out that this starter dungeon is oddly difficult to clear. As the bugs start multiplying, Alec notes that some accident must have happened in the dungeon's deeper levels. Yorha casts a defensive spell on herself and walks forward, but Alec tells her it's not safe. Feeling confident, she keeps going, saying that Alec has lost his old courage. Yorha reminds him that he'd never back down from any monster and tells him to trust her judgment. Watching the monsters gather and bombard Yorha's shield, Alec feels stuck, but remembers that he's not a court magician trying to help a spoiled prince anymore. Feeling free to help his friend, Alec concentrates and gathers his magic. Yorha notices his focus, and Alec unleashes a powerful fire spell that burns all the bugs to a crisp. Yorha feels happy that her friend's old spirit returned, but Alec jumps to take out some more bugs behind her. Then, as a full swarm starts surrounding the two of them, Yorha casts a big shield while Alec charges a big spell. The bugs buzz helplessly around them as Alec calls a huge magic circle, unleashing a devastating thunderbolt spell that wipes them all out. Relieved that the fight is over, Alec sighs, and Yorha congratulates him. Suddenly, a giant worm monster pops out from the ground and catches Yorha. With no time to relax, Alec realizes that the worm must be the reason the bugs were so panicked. As Yorha dangles from the monster's teeth, Alec reminds her that she has the strongest support magic in the academy. She smiles, recalling that he has the most powerful offensive spells to help with. With Yorha's support, Alec calls forth a blazing dragon that coils above his wand. He chants a spell called Blazing Tornado and launches it towards the worm. The dragon instantly swallows the worm and burns its entire body to ashes, leaving Yorha safe in her defensive bubble. After After landing on the ground, Yorha runs to Alec, who praises her abilities. Yorha tells him that he's the strongest magician in the world, and Alec shyly accepts her praise. She thinks that Alec acts just like old times as she recalls one of their party's previous battles. While Lasting Period was off making records, the Royal Academy was having its graduation ceremony. A girl called Rosa sighed, watching Yorha's team returning from their win. After learning that they had gone down to floor 68, the students around them felt shocked since the previous record was only 37. Yorha's party made their way to Rosa, who gave them their degrees with their rankings. Ornest got 4th position, followed by Kraja on 3rd and Yorha on 2nd, with Alec getting 1st position. After getting his degree, Alec thanked Rosa by calling her Rosa-chan, which made her angry. Ignoring her anger, the rest of the team also started teasing her until she crashed out. Afterward, as they started heading back, Alec stopped behind his team and announced that he would become a court magician. Kraja sighs, knowing that the attractive salary was a tempting offer. Alec awkwardly explained to his friends that even though his father was against his decision, he wanted to support him with the money. Remembering his teacher Elda's, he remained silent before saying that adventuring just wasn't a stable job. Ornest feels regret since they can't make the strongest party with all 4 geniuses, but Kraja starts teasing him for being in 4th place, as Alec smiled at his team's positive response. Yorha tells him to never forget them. She tells him that even if they're going their separate ways, if they succeed in their goal, she'd snatch him away from the royal court. Alec was surprised by her support, and the rest of his teammates agreed with their leader. Before leaving, Yorha told Alec to join their party again someday, which left him speechless. After gathering his emotions, Alec promises to return one day, and his teammates held out their hands to seal the deal. Back in the present, Yorha shares a drink with Alec at his welcome party. Alec notes that she's quite happy, but Yorha's mood changes after she sips the drink. She starts crying about the fire magic he used, saying that he almost turned her into fried chicken with the worm monster. Alec points out that she was fine with her defensive magic, but Yorha refuses to accept it. Then, she starts wobbling in dizziness from the drink, before falling asleep on the table. Seeing her doze off, Alec covers her with a robe. However, a big man behind him thinks that he's too gentle to be an adventurer. Alec looks back at the tough guy, but ignores him and goes back to drinking. Angered by his response, the guy tries to punch Alec, but he easily blocks it with a spell. This time, Alec takes the man seriously, and the man feels satisfied that he got his attention. He wonders why Alec came back to be an adventurer despite being an elite court magician. Then, the man gives Alec an adventurer's card as compensation for punching him, but with one condition: he wants to see what a court magician is capable of. Alec wonders who this troublemaker man is, and the sleepy Yorha mumbles that it's the guild master. Shocked that the brutish guy's real identity, Alec follows him into a training ground. The guild master welcomes both Alec and Yorha, explaining that he uses this ground to assess adventurer parties before promoting their rank. In exchange for the adventurer's card, he tells Alec to prove his magical ability to him. Yorha complains that Alec didn't get any time to rest, but Alec feels confident in completing the test, as he reminds her that they can skip 2 years of waiting by passing this test. Yorha agrees. Once Alec gets in the ground with the guild master, he introduces himself as Leviel, remembering that he once led a powerful party. Alec praises Leviel for his S-ranked magic abilities. With a smug grin, Leviel gets ready, saying it's just past glory. Alec starts the fight by casting a thunderbolt at Leviel, but Leviel dodges it and counters with his own water magic. Realizing that he can't hit Leviel with long-range attacks, Alec tries to get close to him. However, Leviel uses a body enhancement magic and speeds up, jumping behind Alec in an instant. He starts running circles around Alec, confusing him with the high speed before taking the chance to launch a punch at him. Although Alec blocks the punch, its power shatters his shield and sends him flying into a wall. Leviel praises Alec for blocking his attack, while Alec admires his powerful abilities. As he wonders how to deal with Leviel's high speed, Alec suddenly starts laughing. This confuses Leviel, so Alec explains that he has developed a bad habit of thinking like a passive supporting court magician. Now that he's a free adventurer, Alec feels free to go all out with his powers. Leviel gets ready for the challenge, and Alec creates a sharp magic sword. The guild master taunts Alec to attack, and he rushes forward, avoiding all of his water blasts. As Alec continues to get closer, Leviel reminds him that he can't counter his punch with his weak power. Internally, Alec knows he's right, but he predicts Leviel's next movement and strikes him with a thunderbolt in advance. With the guild master stunned, Alec charges with his sword for the final blow. Leviel praises him for breaking his magic in such a short time, understanding why Yorha likes Alec so much. However, he doesn't let Alec off the hook yet and uses a dragon spell. The spell transforms Leviel's arms into dragon claws, and he charges at Alec with his full power. After avoiding the attack, Alec is shocked that Leviel's punch made a huge crater in the floor. The guild master taunts him for getting scared, but Alec responds with a thunderbolt spell. Leviel shrugs off the thunderbolt and punches Alec again, who struggles to block it. Leviel reminds Alec that he can't win by running away and uses his dragon claws to heal his body. Not wanting to let him recover, Alec starts slashing at Leviel with his sword. However, none of Alec's sword attacks can even scratch Leviel, who confidently tells him that he'll recover in no time. Still, Alec believes Leviel is more concerned than he is and dodges his next strike before counterattacking. Frustrated by Alec's persistence, Leviel charges in for a finishing blow, breaking through Alec's shield, but Alec seizes the opportunity to strike him at close range. However, Leviel attacks through the pain, and Alec dodges once again. He gets behind Leviel for another attack, but his sword breaks from Leviel's tough armor. Exhausted of all his magic energy, Alec collapses to the ground. As Yorha rushes to check on him, Leviel thinks that the winner has been decided. Suddenly, Ornest comes in and mocks Leviel for using his full power against a young boy. Embarrassed, Leviel says that he'll acknowledge Alec's abilities and give him the pass anyway, even if he lost against him. Ornest smirks as he walks over to check on Alec. He helps him onto a sofa to rest and asks Yorha what happened to him at the royal palace. When Yorha replies that it's a long story, Leviel thinks that the palace is a terrible place for Alec. Nodding in agreement, Ornest feels disgusted that the pretentious palace only cares about status and bloodlines. He wonders how Alec even lasted 4 years in such a horrible environment and notices Yorha deep in thought. He gets angry that she's acting all soft for him, and suddenly, the guild receptionist comes inside in a panic. As she complains to Leviel, he drags her away to go back to work. Yorha wonders what happened outside, but Ornest ignores it and asks her about Alec's story. After learning that Alec was only allowed to use support spells without drawing attention, couldn't use any weapons, and was forced to carry the prince's luggage, Ornest gets absolutely furious. Yorha agrees, explaining that after putting all these ridiculous restrictions on him, the royal palace acted like Alec was useless. Ornest feels confused that Alec used support magic in the royal palace, since he only used offensive magic in the royal academy. He realizes that Alec was forced to learn support magic, even though it wasn't suitable for him, all because of the palace's harsh restrictions. Yorha praises Alec for mastering support magic like the defensive shield so quickly. However, Ornest feels enraged that despite all these restrictions, Alec protected the hero's party, but was still humiliated and kicked out by them. In his frustration, he shatters the glass bottle in his hands, which wakes up Alec. He feels surprised that Ornest is here before getting up to sit. Yorha shows him the adventurer's pass, and Alec feels excited to go adventuring with his party again. Ornest interrupts them, saying that before going out, they should first take revenge on the royal palace. Alec reminds Ornest that he can't just beat up the prince even if he hates him. Ornest disagrees and insists that they take revenge. Alec keeps trying to calm him down, and Yorha tells Ornest that he shouldn't cause trouble within the party. He asks her if she doesn't want to avenge her good friend, which leaves Yorha speechless. Alec steps in, saying that the best revenge is to make the prince regret his choice. Suddenly, Ornest agrees, thinking that they should just become the strongest party in the world. Ornest feels excited, thinking that the prince would come begging for Alec to return once he becomes the strongest. Even Alec approves of this revenge plan and promises Ornest that they'll become the best together. Meanwhile, in another room, the receptionist takes care of an S-rank adventurer called Krista. Leviel asks her why her party, called Rechroma, got hurt, and she tells him it's an emergency. Soon, Leviel gathers all the adventurers into the room and announces that Rechroma is stuck at level 64 in a dungeon. While Yorha and Ornest learn this news, Krasia pokes Alec in his room. Looking at his grim state, Krasia thinks he'll go to an early grave, as she asks him why he isn't attending Leviel's meeting. Alec explains that they're all ranked adventurers out there, so he doesn't feel comfortable attending as an outsider. Krasia's eyes narrow at his comment, and she heals his wounds. After telling Alec that she won't force him to do anything, she offers to support him with any problem he's facing. Alec chuckles, saying that he's just trying to avoid standing out. He explains that after staying low-key in the royal palace all the time, he has developed a habit of being cautious. Despite knowing that adventurers are different from nobles, Alec still feels uncomfortable around them. Feeling bad for him, Krasia pats Alec's head, which makes him feel better. Suddenly, Ornest and Yorha barge into the room, and Ornest announces that it's finally Alec's chance to go out on a big adventure. Yorha explains that their next destination is the Tank Killer Dungeon, which is to the west of Fizzle City. She reveals that healing magic doesn't work in Tank Killer, and Alec is surprised that Krasia agreed to explore such a dungeon where her magic is useless. However, she points out that she totally opposed the idea, but Ornest cried like a kid to go there anyway. Ornest defends himself, saying they had a majority vote, and the two of them start fighting like a bunch of kids. Meanwhile, Alec asks Yorha about Rechroma, who got defeated by the floor boss. After revealing that Krister returned alone to alert the guild. Yorha explains that they'll need Alec's offensive powers to beat the boss. He thinks that he's ready, but feels a bit worried that his powers might have gotten weaker from his time at the royal palace. Seeing that Alec is going, Ornest gets ready to defeat the boss before Leviel's party can reach it. Kraja is surprised that Leviel is going too, and Yorha responds that they'll be partnering with his team. At this news, Kraja realizes that they're just supporting characters to pad up Leviel's main party. Alec also nods, and Ornest wonders why they're okay with being the side characters. In response, Alec tells him that he's the only unqualified person, but Ornest reminds him that he's their strongest magician. Yorha agrees and informs Alec that Leviel specifically asked him to come, and he finally feels some confidence in his own power. With the support of all his friends, Alec gets ready to join the lasting period party again. Once they're all ready, they head out to the tank killer dungeon. Ornest thinks that this is the beginning of their party's legend, but Yorha says that she just wants to keep exploring with her friends. As Kraja agrees, Alec also laughs at Ornest's hot-headedness. He apologizes to his team for making them wait so long, but Ornest tells him they were happy to wait. Soon, they all prepare to head inside and start their official comeback as the Academy's strongest party. Before entering the dungeon, Ornest points out that if they explore it level by level, it would take forever to reach the 64th floor. Yorha agrees and explains that Krista obtained a magic core from her party when they reached that floor. Krista gave the core to Yorha so their team could take a shortcut straight to the 64th floor and rescue her teammates. Hearing this, Ornest wonders how the guild master will reach that floor without a core of his own, but Yorha explains that his party already has one. Ornest sighs, wondering why Leviel is even calling their team if he's going to finish the job himself. And Kraja points out that they're just side characters to make the guild leader look good. Once they get serious, Yorha reveals that the floor boss is an undead monster. Since Alec has the strongest matchup against undead monsters, Ornest tells him to stand back and preserve his mana until the boss fight. Alec feels worried to let his team handle the dirty work, but Kraja also thinks it's a good idea. She reminds her team that they're about to face a life or death challenge, so they need to be at their best if they want to survive. Excited for the challenge, Ornest stamps his foot, and Yorha activates the core to teleport them all to the dungeon. As they appear at the start of the 64th floor, the group gets surrounded by skeleton soldiers. Pumped up, Ornest charges straight in with his spear and starts destroying the skeleton army. Concerned that he'll tire himself out, Yorha rushes to support him with magic. Meanwhile, Alec calmly watches Ornest use his ancient artifact, the black spear called Almersteka. Kraja explains that the black spear is very sharp and durable, but its simple qualities perfect for Ornest. Watching Ornest turn the skeletons into bone meal, Alec wonders if he should stay back. Ornest says that he doesn't need help, so Alec nods, but suddenly, he feels a strange aura behind him. He quickly fires a thunderbolt, confusing Kraja. She asks if something happened, but Alec thinks it was just his imagination. However, he realizes that something is actually trying to attack him, so he summons his mana sword to block a sneak attack from an invisible Reaper. Watching him parry the Reaper's blow, Ornest is glad that Alec's power hasn't decreased in the past 4 years. While Alec is annoyed that Ornest is only testing his power against strong enemies, Ornest says that he trusts Alec to defend him against the Grim Reaper. Knowing that his friend trusts him, Alec feels motivated to meet his expectations. With a burst of power, he slashes at the Reaper at an incredible speed, cutting it in half. After defeating the Reaper, Alec asks Yorha if she knew about the dungeon's dangers, and she apologizes for hiding it. Kraja tells him that it's Ornest's fault for bringing them there, so Alec promises to rearrange the meathead's brain after their mission. Ornest laughs, saying that they have to return home alive first. Soon, another wave of skeleton soldiers pours in, and Ornest feels excited for the challenging fight. Yorha reminds him that they're trying to rescue a team instead of conquering the dungeon, but Kraja thinks he's too dumb to understand simple plans. Both Ornest and Alec get ready to charge with their weapons, so Yorha boosts their power with her magic. While Ornest plays whack-a-mole with the skeletons, he notices Yorha panicking with one of them. Luckily, Kraja shoots it down for her, which gives Alec the chance to ready a big attack. After the team stands behind him, Alec charges a magic circle, planning to eliminate all the incoming skeletons. After frying all the skeletons into ashes, he says that the coast is clear. Ornest asks him why he always uses Thunderbolt instead of other spells, but Alec remains silent, thinking about all the times Prince Regulus stopped him from using his abilities, as Alec says that he only uses the spell because it's easy to cast. But Ornest stops him, knowing something is up. He keeps poking Alec to explain, but suddenly, the ground starts shaking. The group realizes that the sound is coming from the floor boss, and Ornest gets ready to charge into the dungeon's depths. With Yorha's help, he speeds into the tunnel, while the rest of the team chases after him. Yorha praises Ornest for being so fast, but Alec thinks that she's even more impressive because she can help them run just as fast as he with her magic. As Yorha gets flustered, they reach the end of the tunnel. Outside, they find Ornest staring at a young mage called Loki running for his life from a giant dragon. Loki keeps crying at Ornest to save him, but he ignores the poor mage, knowing he has the power to survive for so long. As Alec feels confused by his friend's indifference, Ornest explains that Loki is actually Rakroma's support mage, and they're here to rescue him along with the rest of the party. Meanwhile, Loki swears that he'll haunt Ornest as a ghost for ignoring him in danger. Suddenly, Loki trips on the ground, and Alec gets ready to help. However, Kraja tells him that he'll be fine since this is how Loki fights. Suddenly, he grins at the dragon. As the creature steps towards him, it triggers a fire trap that pierces through its body. After seeing his dirty tricks, Alec finally understands why his friends call Loki a jerk. As the dragon roars in pain, Loki starts mocking it, so it responds by charging up a superheat laser. Before he can react, the laser melts through everything in its path. Luckily, Ornest saves Loki before he can be evaporated. Ornest explains that although he knew Loki still had some fight in him, Alec got too worried and ordered him to save him from the beast. As the dragon growls at them, Alec gets ready for a big fight. The dragon attacks with its claws, but Yorha blocks the hit. Alec tries to attack with a thunderbolt, but the dragon actually runs away instead of fighting. He realizes that it's heading straight for Loki and warns Ornest to be careful. With a thunderbolt attack, Alec distracts the dragon, giving Ornest the chance to run back towards his party. As Kraja is shocked by his actions, Ornest throws Loki straight at her. After Kraja catch him, she takes Loki away, while Ornest gets ready to fight without distractions. Yorha reminds him that they're not here for a monster brawl, so he should let Alec finish off the dragon. Alec nods and watches as Kraja takes Loki to a safe distance. Once they're ready, Yorha casts every enhancement spell on Ornest, who leaps into the air and strikes the dragon. He manages to get a few hits, but his spear gets stuck, which gives the dragon the chance to knock him to the ground. As Ornest is defenseless, Yorha quickly runs up to check on him. Before she can check, the dragon raises its claw to attack, but Yorha blocks it with a shield. While she struggles to hold on, Loki finally learns that Alec has returned to lasting period, as Alec summons multiple magic circles to surround the dragon. Loki is impressed to see so many at once, realizing that Alec is a genius. However, Kraja tells him that her friend has much more power to offer. In front of Loki's eyes, Alec summons 20 more circles, surpassing the records of magical genius dozens of times. The dragon tries to interrupt Alec's spell by charging towards him, but Ornest finally gets up and stabs its tail to stop it. With this distraction, he jumps away from the dragon, and Alec finally completes his spell. He unleashes a boosted thunderbolt spell combined into one, which starts frying the dragon alive. However, it manages to escape before it can be burned to a crisp. After escaping, the dragon opens its mouth to attack him, and Ornest tells Kraja to distract it. She immediately launches an arrow rain that stops the dragon in its tracks, while Yorha uses a magic spell to bind the dragon's limbs. Ornest also attacks the dragon with his spear, weakening it for Alec. Alec takes this chance to create 4 new magic circles, which surround the dragon and seal it under high pressure. Even under the seal's pressure, the dragon opens its mouth again to attack, and Alec praises the creature for remaining calm under so much pressure. Alec possesses a spell for a moment like this. It was his master who taught him the technique years ago, and ever since, Alec is the only mage capable of casting it. He waits for the dragon to strike. As it unleashes a magic beam, Alec casts a reflect spell, sending the monster's attack back at full force. Somehow, the dragon still survives its own attack and starts charging another attack. However, Alec uses the 4 seal formations to unleash a scorching inferno that blasts the dragon's body with hot flames. Unfortunately for the dragon, Ornest charges in to split its head and finish it off. Once the dragon is defeated, Alec and Ornest both congratulate each other. Yorha and Kraja also come up, taunting their 4th place teammate for the assist. As the party laughs, Loki approaches them, praising everyone for their abilities. He asks Alec if he's the same royal court magician from Galdana who was rumored to have defeated the Hydra. Loki thinks that Alec is definitely strong enough to beat the Hydra, but Alec reveals that he got fired from the court. This shocks Loki, but Alec says he's doing fine even after losing his job. However, Loki tells him that he's actually feeling bad for the royal palace, which was dumb enough to kick out a genius like him. Then, Loki starts harassing Yorha, saying that Krista will repay her for the help. Yorha notes that he's deflecting his own responsibility on the team leader, which Loki shamelessly ignores. Then, he asks the party for some recovery potions, saying he donated all the potions he had to someone else. After getting serious, he explains that one of his party members is still fighting a floor boss that is even stronger than the dragon they just defeated. Kraja asks if the dragon they just fought was a normal enemy, but Loki explains that this floor actually has multiple bosses. He reveals that he just lured out the dragon because it looked dumber and easier to trick, so his team team could fight the other one. Krasia admits that Loki is great at causing trouble everywhere. Despite the insult, Loki shamelessly tries to flirt with her, so Ornest splashes a potion on his face. While the two of them start bickering, Krasia asks Loki what the stronger floor boss is like. He reveals that the other boss is a necromancer wearing metal armor, but the armor seems hollow from the inside. As the party realizes that the armor is the boss's real body, Loki points out that physical attacks can't hurt it. Then, he turns to Alec and gives him an artifact. Alec is confused, so Loki says that he knows about his ability to use weapons. Alec smiles and praises Loki's sharp observation, to which Loki replies that he has to stay alert since he's a support mage. After praising Alec's ability to look weak yet intimidating at the same time, Loki explains that he can't defeat such a powerful boss without the artifact. As the artifact glows, it expands into a magical sword called SC Warts, the Ripper of Heaven. Ornest wonders why he is being so helpful to them, so he reveals that Loki wants Alec to fight only with his physical attacks. The party gets enraged, knowing that the monster can't get hurt by physical attacks. However, Loki grins maliciously, saying that this time, he will prove his abilities and help Alec defeat the boss with a devious plan he has in mind. Meanwhile, on the 30th floor of a dungeon, Regulus's party runs from some monsters. Regulus asks Lenny to blast the pests away with her magic, but her wand sputters and fails to work. Frustrated, he wonders why his teammates are so useless and decides to fight the monsters himself. However, he realizes it's pointless when his sword harmlessly bounces off a monster's tough shell. After getting humbled, Regulus gets lifted like a sack of potatoes as his team escapes the dungeon. While being carried away, the prince wonders why it's so hard to defeat monsters he can normally destroy. Then, he realizes that ever since he fired Alec from his team, their performance has suddenly gotten worse. Instead of giving Alec credit for his good work, the prince blames Alec for cursing their team as revenge. After escaping the dungeon, Regulus gets a mage called Vogan to check for any curses. Once Vogan completes his diagnosis, he tells the prince that he's just imagining things. Regulus still refuses to accept his own failure and blames Alec for everything. Hearing Alec's name, Vogan is surprised and suggests that Regulus can't clear the 30th floor because it disables all support magic. Regulus scoffs, thinking that support magic is for weaklings, and keeps wondering why he's such a failure. Vogan points out that Alec already warned Regulus about the magic restriction on the 30th floor, but the prince keeps ignoring Alec's name. Vogan reminds him to have some respect for Alec, since he's the legendary student that reached the 80th floor, but the prince laughs, dismissing it as a bunch of rumors. Soon, a messenger knocks on the door and tells the prince that the king wants to speak with him immediately regarding Alec. After entering the king's room, Regulus thinks his dad has also figured out Alec, but the king asks him if he knows about Eldas. Seeing his son's confusion, the king explains that a few decades ago, Eldas was banished for daring to warn the king to change how the royal court works. Otherwise, their kingdom would be destroyed by a calamity. The king thinks that Eldas was just insane. Regulus agrees that disrespectful noblemen like him deserve to be exiled. Then, the king reveals that after he banished Eldas from the court, he entered the Royal Academy as a commoner and silenced everyone with his incredible skills. After graduating as the academy's top student, Eldas used another opportunity to become the court magician and return to the king. Remembering Eldas's strange words, the king laughs, saying that he disappeared after that. As the king recalls Eldas's warning that commoners shouldn't be underestimated, he asks Regulus if he knows why he was sent to the dungeon. Regulus thinks that it's just so that he can gain strength and experience, but the king reveals that he was just testing if Eldas's words were true or not. The king thinks that it might be time to change the rules of his kingdom and start employing qualified commoners instead of nitpicking their backgrounds. As the king finishes his statement, Regulus gulps and says that it would tarnish their family's reputation if they relied on commoners. Regulus reminds his father that he's the one who taught him to respect nobility, but the king says that he also trusted Eldas with one decision. Saying that Alec is the person who caused him so much pain, Regulus begs his father to reconsider his decision, but suddenly, a servant shows Regulus the remnants of Alec's written report. When Regulus reads the notes, he sees they include a full guide to clearing the 30th floor of the dungeon. The king reveals that the notes are from Alec, and he couldn't have covered all the strategies in such detail without clearing the floor several times. Learning this, Regulus's inflated ego takes a huge hit, and he quietly turns around to leave. As the prince walks away, the king asks Vogan to take care of his son. In the palace halls, Regulus slumps against a wall, wondering why Alec never discussed any strategies before. Remembering that he's the one who kicked out Alec without giving him a chance, the prince finally admits that he's the useless one. Thinking that Alec probably thought he was too stupid to discuss strategies with, he smashes a vase in rage. Then, Regulus asks Vogan for a favor. Meanwhile, back in the dungeon, Alec wonders how Loki's artifact will help him take down the floor boss. As Ornus tells Loki to stop bossing them around, he points out that Alec can use his magic at the right time. Yorha realizes that Loki is trying to fool the floor boss into thinking that Alec is a swordsman to strike him at a weak spot. Kraja thinks that they'll just waste their time trying to trick a brainless monster, but Loki reveals that this boss is intelligent. As he tells the team that the boss monster can use advanced sword techniques, they all fall speechless, seeing everyone so uneasy. Loki tells Alec to use his sword for most of the battle, but finish the fight with magic. After Alec accepts his plan, Loki turns to Kraja for some help. She isn't interested, but Loki tells her that he needs her mana to teleport anyway, knowing that teleport magic is a national secret. Kraja is shocked, while Yorha covers her ears to avoid getting involved. Loki laughs, saying that it doesn't matter since there aren't any spies in the dungeon. Anyway, as the careless mage keeps laughing, Alec tells Yorha that if anyone questions them, they'll just blame everything on Loki. As Loki draws the teleportation circle on the ground, Alec wonders if they can trust him. Yorha tells him that while Loki isn't honest about everything, he's still a trustworthy guy. She reveals that 2 years ago, Loki was in charge of a search team looking for the Arcana dungeon, and they returned without any casualties. As Alec feels impressed, Yorha reminds him that Loki's party leader is also a reliable adventurer. With her words, Alec decides to trust him and calls out to Ornus, reminding him that he rarely gets a chance to use swords. He tells Ornus to play like old times. While they bicker in the background, Loki is genuinely surprised that the team is getting along so well after 4 years of being separated. Kraja reminds him that old friendships don't fade away so easily and points out that his own team trusts him enough to handle the dungeon boss by himself. Suddenly, Loki shifts the serious topic and starts teasing Kraja, who quickly covers his big mouth. Soon, the teleportation portal is ready and everyone waits for it to activate. Loki explains that the teleportation magic can only take them to specific spots marked on the map. He warns the group to remain alert since they could face the final boss at any time after teleporting. Finally, Loki teleports them all near his party members, and they appear right in front of the glowing dark armor. As the boss walks towards Loki's party, they realize they're in deep trouble. The team leader, Rewell, sends Krista back for support. As she leaves, their partner, Marbell, charges at the boss to distract it. Rewell shoots a fireball to assist her, but the boss shrugs off his attacks and continues attacking. As Rewell wonders how to deal with the troublesome set of armor, Ornus suddenly charges into the battle. He distracts the knight from the front, while Alec sneaks behind it for a surprise attack. However, the boss still avoids Alec's attack and engages in a fierce battle with both of them. Meanwhile, Loki regroups with Rewell and Marbell, then takes them along with Kraja to receive healing. Yorha watches as Ornus and Alec continue fighting the knight, unable to penetrate its defenses. As Ornus attacks again, the boss jumps up to avoid it. This time, Ornus steps on the knight's hood to stop it from jumping, which gives Alec the chance to cut its head clean off. As the empty helmet lands on the ground, Alec thinks they've won the match, but suddenly, the armor comes to life again. Alec realizes that it's a Dullahan monster that can live without its head, and Ornus thinks that the dragon boss they defeated was just this knight's steed. However, Alec quickly realizes that he lost sight of the boss, and it reaches him at lightning speed. As he blocks the attack, Alec feels the boss using even more power. He thinks that the boss is finally taking the battle seriously, but it forgot to pay attention to his partner, Ornus. With some power buffs from Yorha, Ornus attacks the knight with his spear, but it blocks his charge. This gives Alec the chance to knock the knight back, and Ornus asks him how he feels about the boss. Alec tells him that the knight's armor is too hard, thinking that even their ancient artifacts might break. However, Ornus still feels excited to keep fighting since the boss is a worthy opponent. Nearby, the knight reattaches its head and screams loudly, which distracts Alec and Ornus. It uses this distraction to attack and send Alec flying, but Yorha manages to shield him just in time. As she checks on him, Alec says he's fine. If she hadn't saved him with her barriers, he would have died. In that moment, Alec asks Loki how much longer he needs to distract the Dullahan. Loki responds that he still needs 5 more minutes, so Alec drinks a recovery potion to recover his strength. Meanwhile, Ornus screams at Alec to stop slacking while he struggles with the Dark Knight. As Alec rushes to help his friend, Loki calls over Yorha for a task. As they continue fighting the monster, Ornus says that Alec is finally looking like a real champion. He thinks that after meeting him for the first time in 4 years, Alec always had a bored, passive expression on his face. This surprises Alec, who tells him it's none of his business. Still fighting, Ornus refuses to back off, saying that even if he can't magically fix all of Alec's problems, he still wants to support him as his friend. Nearby, Loki finishes charging his magic, and a huge circle appears above them. He laughs, saying that a monster with intelligence can easily be manipulated, but the knight instantly appears before him and slashes through his chest. While rushing towards him, Alec and Ornus realize that Loki was just using an illusion spell to test the monster's intelligence. Loki taunts the knight for being too impatient, saying that it has walked right into his trap. Suddenly, some ice crystals wrap around the knight's leg, preventing it from walking properly. Seeing the monster walk away, Ornest decides to charge at it, but he steps on a hidden magic circle. Loki smiles, already knowing he'd do this, and he gets Kraja to teleport Ornest, appearing right behind the knight. Ornest sends it flying away with his spear. Loki praises Kraja for learning the teleport spell so easily, while Marbell cheers for her teammates' successful plan. At Ornest's signal, she jumps off the roof and attacks the monster on the ground. It dodges to the right, but only manages to step on another trap set by Loki, which traps its legs even more. Infuriated by all the traps, the knight roars and climbs straight up to the tower roof. Loki tells Kraja to back away from the monster and taunts it to come closer. This time, the knight sees through his trap and decides to attack from a different direction. However, Loki blocks it with his sword, but Rywell thinks there's no way he can fight off the monster on his own. To support Loki, Yorha casts sevenfold enhancement magic, giving him some more time. Somehow, the monster still forces Loki back, but it steps on yet another trap hidden on the floor. As the trap activates, Yorha unleashes a 3-point seal spell, which chains the monster to the spot. As the knight knocks Loki off the roof, he screams at Alec to finish it off. Seeing his careful planning to set up the monster for him, Alec nods, ready to deliver the final blow. Watching Alec prepare his final attack, Loki notices that he has created even more spell formations than he did against the dragon. Struggling to output so much power, Alec stumbles, but gets back up on his feet to complete the spell. As Alec's body glows with energy, more formations surround the knight. Finally, Alec releases the powerful combination Thunderbolt, making the monster scream in pain. However, the powerful knight slashes through its seal, wanting to escape. Knowing this is his last chance, Alec struggles to add more power to the spell, but his body gives out. Loki realizes that it's already insane that Alec has already used his ultimate spell twice, so it's completely normal that he can't use its full power. Meanwhile, Alec struggles to keep up his spell, but suddenly, he remembers Regulus's mocking words from when he fired him. Then, he remembers the kind welcome afterward by his own team, and raises his wand again, unwilling to let them down here. Determined to make his friends proud, Alec steps forward and chants a new spell called Vajra, which combines all his thunder formations and releases a gigantic dragon. As the rest of the team watches in shock, Alec prepares to destroy the Dark Knight with his lightning dragon. Soon, the monster breaks free from Yorha's seal and charges forward. Alec immediately releases his dragon, which rushes forth and devours the metal beast, shattering its entire body to bits. With the boss defeated, Alec finally collapses on the ground, exhausted. He feels happy that he can rely on his teammates to cover for him, but Yorha reminds him that they're here just to enjoy themselves. Ornest thinks that the old Alec is finally back at full strength, but Kraja says he can still improve. He chuckles before asking Alec if he won their bet this time. Remembering their bet that whoever fell down first lost, Alec gets mad at Ornest for being so unfair. Knowing that Alec was suffering from a disadvantage, Ornest decides to go easy on him and give him a lighter punishment. He tells Alec to never keep any more secrets from their team, saying that he should always rely on his friends to solve his problems. Seeing his friend's sincere concern, tears run down Alec's face as he jokes about the light punishment. Ornest wonders if Alec wants to truly suffer, so he decides not to push his luck. As Alec feels grateful for such wonderful friends, Rywell and Marbell walk over. Rywell thanks Alec for saving his entire team's life, as he introduces himself as the party leader. Suddenly, Marbell comes out of nowhere and kisses Alec on the cheek, while Yorha gets jealous. Marbell thanks him for the help and invites him to explore dungeons with her party. Yorha reminds her that Alec belongs to her team, while Loki praises his incredible performance. As Loki thanks the team for saving his life, Ornest and Kraja start bullying him to give them something in return. Feeling pressured, he finally agrees, wondering why the two of them partner together to bully him. Then, Loki turns around, thinking that the party wants him to give a letter of recommendation for them. Alec wonders what the letter would do, so Rywell explains that in order to be promoted to S rank, all ranked parties need a letter of recommendation and approval from the guild master. He reassures Alec that he'll write the letter of recommendation himself, and Ornest thinks it's a good idea to send Rywell instead of Loki. Feeling attacked, Loki asks if everyone hates him so much, and literally every single person nods, laughing at his misery. Once their discussion is done, Alec heads over to where he defeated the knight and picks up its monster core. With the core collected, Rywell's party says goodbye and leaves the dungeon. They praise Lasting Period for their amazing abilities, and they all small grin, celebrating a job well done. Afterward, the party returns to the guild, where Alec gets his reward from the guild attendant. She sends him off after praising his performance, and Alec runs into the guild master, who tells him he's got a visitor from Galdana. As Alec meets this visitor, he finds out that it's Vogan. Vogan asks him if he wanted the prince to die by hiding his abilities from him. However, Alec reminds him that the spoiled little prince wouldn't listen to him anyway, which silences Vogan. Then Alec asks if the prince has a new court magician. He laughs and explains that the spoiled brat was humbled on the dungeon's 30th floor. Vogan says that he was hired to teach the prince and be his bodyguard, but he got tired of his attitude. Realizing that he's the prince's bodyguard, Alec figures that Regulus must also be in the guild. He asks Vogan where the prince is right now, so he explains that he's in the guild's arena to avoid him. Alec asks him to lead him there, since he has some stuff to settle with Regulus. As the two of them walk downstairs to the underground arena, Vogan wonders why the prince is so rigid about his views on nobility. Alec thinks that it's only normal for nobles to act like a bunch of snobs, and Vogan sighs. Frustrated, this surprises Alec, who points out that he's a noble himself. However, Vogan says that he doesn't care about meaningless statuses, and he hates the way Regulus thinks. Soon, they enter the arena, where Alec finds the prince standing in a cloud of dust. As Regulus turns around, he glares at Alec and reveals what the king told him. Alec is surprised that the strict king actually wants to change his court, but Regulus tells him he'll only accept the change because his father ordered him. He points an accusing finger at Alec, crying that lowly commoners don't deserve to work with holy nobles like him. Frustrated that he grew up his entire life thinking he was better than everyone else, Regulus starts screaming and grabs Alec's collar. As the prince sheds tears, overwhelmed by emotion, Alec admits that he can't understand his feelings. However, he tells the spoiled brat that it's his fault for never listening to him. Regulus gets angry, but Alec shakes him off, saying that if he had listened to him, he wouldn't have gotten humiliated in the dungeon. Despite being in the wrong, Regulus's ego blinds him, and he refuses to listen. He places a hand on his chest, which starts glowing, and summons his weapons to challenge Alec. Regulus tells Vogan that he doesn't think the king is right, and Vogan nods as he listens. The prince tells him to make the king change his decision if he can defeat Alec and prove the superiority of nobles. After his announcement, Regulus charges at Alec, who blocks his attacks. Alec feels surprised that Regulus switched to twin swords, and the prince tells him it's just an ancient artifact. He reminds Alec that he himself told him to stop using a heavier sword. Alec told Regulus to switch to smaller twin swords, since they would be easier to wield with his younger body. Even after taking his advice, the prince collapses to the ground as Alec dodges his attack. Watching the prince's sudden passion, Alec asks Vogan if he encouraged him to do this. The bodyguard calmly tells Alec that he wanted Regulus to confirm a commoner's ability with his own eyes, since he was too stubborn to acknowledge them. As the prince struggles to get up, Vogan tells him to prove his bluster about nobles with his actions. Angered by his taunt, Regulus tries to attack again, but Alec blocks it once more. While the prince desperately slashes at Alec, Vogan reveals that he told the prince he'd earn his respect if he took action, even if he couldn't prove himself. Then, Regulus charges a special attack to break through Alec's defenses, but he still deflects the attack. Exhausted, Regulus realizes that Alec is enhancing his own abilities through support magic. He remembers that while exploring the dungeons with Alec, he never used to get tired because his support magic protected him during his reckless actions. In response, Alec says that he was simply doing his duty, but Regulus reveals that when he went to the dungeon after kicking him out, he got his butt kicked every time. Frustrated by his repeated losses, Regulus finally read through Alec's notes. Even though it hurt his very bloated ego, Regulus admits that his notes were perfect and thorough. It left Regulus completely frustrated that Alec could even predict what he'd do in dangerous situations, so he thought that he was a complete genius. Unfortunately, despite recognizing Alec's ability, Regulus says that he wants to take him down. He challenges Alec to take him seriously, so the magician finally summons his sword. This time, he gets serious and reminds the prince that he can absolutely crush him. Before making a move, Alec asks the prince if the king truly thinks their kingdom needs to change. The prince reveals that the king is testing the abilities of nobles and commoners, so he made him explore the dungeon for an experiment. Regulus feels humiliated that he was just a testing project for his father, and Alec finally realizes why the king was so nice to him all those years. The prince wonders if he's satisfied, but Alec tells him that he previously used to think he wasted all those years in the palace. However, if the king changed his mind, it means that his efforts and Eldaz's struggles all those years ago weren't meaningless. As Alec announces his happiness, Regulus is shocked. Then, Alec finally grips his sword, ready to finish the duel. Suddenly, he appears before Regulus in a flash and raises his sword. As the spoiled prince flinches in terror, Alec knocks out his swords in front of Vogan. Once the dust is clear, Regulus is left staring at Alec from the ground. He angrily asks Alec why he didn't hit him, wondering if he spared him out of pity. Regulus tells Alec why he isn't angrier at him, recalling all the times he humiliated him for no reason. As the prince goes on his tangent, Alec stares silently, while Regulus breaks into tears. The young prince loses all hope, thinking his previous ideals and dreams have become completely meaningless. The prince wonders what to do next, since he doesn't know what's right anymore. He thinks that perhaps if he died, his dad would reconsider his decision in grief. However, with Alec looking at him in pity, Regulus thinks that there's no way out for him. In his desperation, Regulus asks Alec what he should do next, which makes him laugh. Alec apologizes for laughing, but says that he never expected the prince to suddenly ask him for life advice. He explains that at first, he also wanted to beat up Regulus and take revenge for all the suffering he put him through. However, with the prince crying and begging him for help, he can't help but laugh at the absurdity. Then, to answer Regulus, Alec says that he doesn't know, since he is always relying on others because of how unpredictable life can be. Alec says that even he struggles to answer what he should do next. However, he tells the prince that he shouldn't ask others for advice and should make his own decisions about what to do. Hearing his advice, Regulus calms down and realizes he should answer his own questions. Then, he asks Vogan for an item, so he hands over the court magician's robe to the prince. Regulus offers the robe to Alec, saying he took it away from him unfairly. In that moment, Vogan also shows him a letter from the royal palace, and Alec asks if it's a royal order. Vogan says that it's actually a request from the king, so Alec refuses to take the robe. He tells the prince that he doesn't want to leave his friends and won't ever become a court magician again. Alec tells him to give the king his warmest regards. The prince throws the robe at him, giving up on Alec. Regulus turns around to leave, saying that he's a total loser for refusing the king's kindness. Alec smirks, saying that he's already a useless commoner, so he can't be missing out much. Finally, Regulus says that he hates Alec, and Alec replies that he feels the same way. Hearing him agree, Regulus leaves, this time with a smile on his face. Vogan turns around to follow his young lord, while Alec laughs, finally feeling free of a mental burden. Sometime later, the team is relaxing in their room when Alec asks if everyone is free. Ornest, Krasia, and Yorha say they have time, so he asks them if they can show him around the city. At the mention of sightseeing, Ornest suddenly gets a stomachache, while Krasia remembers she's got something to do. Alec gets upset, knowing they're clearly making an excuse to go out with him. However, they ignore him and leave anyway, and Yorha gets embarrassed because they're clearly trying to give her some alone time with Alec. Alec asks Yorha to go out with him alone, since he just wants to explore. She gets flustered by his offer, but agrees to show him around. First, Yorha takes Alec to the Adventurers Street, where they explore all kinds of stalls selling useful equipment and items, as she warns Alec not to get swindled by fake goods. A shopkeeper offers her a strange pill to boost her fighting power for 10 whole days. Despite her clever advice earlier, Yorha falls for his obvious scam like a toddler getting tricked by candy. As she's about to buy the pill, Alec stops her and pulls her away from the scammer's shop. He tells her to just send Ornest and Krasia shopping for any items she needs, so Yorha recalls the last time she sent those two idiots to the market. Instead of the items she requested, they ended up buying a bunch of useless merchandise with her precious money. Alec sighs, realizing he's dealing with the world's smartest toddlers in his party. Then, he notices Yorha holding a bag and offers to buy the supplies himself. After Yorha thanks him for the help, they enter a cozy cafe to relax for a bit. As they sit down, Alec asks Yorha why Ornset and Krasia hate Loki so much. She smiles awkwardly and explains that they had a squabble before Ornest got his ancient artifact. Yorha asks Alec if he remembers Ornest's reckless fighting style, and he nods. She explains that although he's wild on the battlefield, Ornest has always had a habit of carefully maintaining and cleaning his weapon off the field. As it turns out, Lasting Period was exploring a dungeon 2 years ago when they encountered an ranked party in trouble. Luckily, Loki and Riwell also came to help, so they were able to fight against the dangerous boss. However, Ornest got injured while protecting the weaker team members from the floor boss, and he tried to hide his injury as they continued fighting. After the boss was defeated, he tried to walk back home with his injury, but collapsed on the way back. Loki and Riwell helped drag Ornest along, but as Loki held Ornest's spear, he thought it was broken from all the fighting. Thinking the weapon was useless, Loki threw it away, which made Ornest furious when he woke up. Yorha believes things still would have been fine, since Loki genuinely got rid of a weapon he assumed was broken. However, he told Ornest that he cared too much about a disposable item, which completely enraged him. She explains that ever since that incident, Ornest and Loki have always been at odds with each other. Alec finally understands why Ornest hates Loki so much, but wonders why Krasia dislikes him as well. So, Yorha tells him that Krasia just thinks he's annoying, and they both laugh at their petty friends. After having coffee, the two of them go back out to explore the market. Soon, Soon, Yorha spots a rare elf bracelet, which increases a person's magic power. Although she really wants the accessory, it's too expensive for her. Alec offers to pay for it, and she's surprised that he'd spend so much on her. He tells her that since she's the team leader, it will help everyone if she gets stronger. Seeing his support, Yorha accepts the gift with a big smile. For the rest of the day, they continue exploring the city and its different attractions. Later, in the evening, they look out at the beautiful sunset together. Yorha wonders if Alec likes Fizzle City, and he nods, saying it's much more lively than Galdana. Hearing about the Imperial City, Yorha grows serious and asks Alec if he can answer her question again. This confuses him, so she reveals that ever since she asked him to rejoin their party, she felt guilty thinking that she stole his job away as the court magician. Yorha wonders if he is happy to be with their party, or if he feels forced to tag along with them. He says that although he has some unfinished business in Galdana, his goals have changed to help his party become the strongest in the world. Hearing this, Yorha tears up and tells him she'll never allow him to quit again. Alec smiles, but she teases that she'll send Ornest after him if he disobeys. As they both cheer up, Yorha feels happy that Alec told her about his inner feelings. However, he suddenly becomes serious and tells Yorha he wants to hear her true feelings as well. She's shocked and instantly assumes he's confessing his love to her. But Alec then explains that Ornest pressured him to talk about his worries with the team, which is why he opened up to her. Realizing she just got tricked, Yorha blushes like crazy, and Alec wonders why she's so embarrassed. The next day, Alec is peacefully sleeping in his bed when Ornest yanks his sheets off. Noticing a book beside him, Ornest wonders if Alec stayed up all night reading. He nods, saying that it's important to stay up to date, but Ornest tells him to fix his sleep schedule. Then, he tosses Alec's clothes in his face and tells him to get ready for the day. Finally feeling refreshed, Alec asks Ornest if they should do their usual routine, and Ornest excitedly agrees. After getting dressed, both boys go outside to spar with their swords. Watching them fight, Yorha wonders why they never take any time off to relax. She warns the boys to take it easy, but they ignore her and keep going full throttle. Alec points out that he missed out on 4 valuable years of fighting, so he needs to bridge the experience gap between him and his teammates. Suddenly, Ornest knocks his sword away and raises his own blade to finish him off. Alec manages to counter the attack, but his sword breaks in the process. Ornest reluctantly admits that even though Alec lacks experience, his reflexes are insane. Alec then points out that Ornest was also able to block all of his attacks. When Alec says he planned to beat him in their match, Ornest laughs and tells him there's no way he could ever defeat him. Then, he pulls out his spear and tells Alec to use his artifact sword for a real battle. Thankfully, Yorha stops the boys before they injure themselves in the stupid practice match. Suddenly, Loki shows up and mocks the team for training so hard, then offers some of his own expert advice. Naturally, they all ignore him and leave to explore the dungeon. Loki smiles and tells them they should treat him better since he just got them promoted to S rank. This shocks everyone, and Yorha quickly tries to get the promotion certificate from him. However, Loki keeps it out of her reach, saying that he'll only give it to her if Ornest apologizes to him. As Loki starts laughing at Ornest's misery, Krista bonks him on the head for his childish attitude. Then, she gives Yorha the letter herself, and Riwell congratulates Lasting Period for achieving the S rank status. After taking the letter, Yorha jumps in joy, feeling like she's taken a step closer to achieving her dream. Then, Krista reminds Alec that after reaching the S rank, he's now qualified to explore the legendary Arcana dungeon. Alec wonders why it's so special, so Riwell explains that the Arcana dungeon is even harder than the level 64 they experienced last time. Alec is surprised to learn this, so Riwell offers to give him tips on exploring the new dungeon. Krista explains that they're still indebted to his team for saving their lives, so they're willing to help him anytime he needs it. Suddenly, Loki barges into the conversation and tries to flirt with Yorha and Kreja. However, they just pretend like he offered to treat them all to a feast for their promotion, and the boys get excited to eat. Feeling nervous, Loki tries to act like he has to cancel the plan for an urgent team meeting. Unfortunately for him, Krista just exposes him and tells everyone they've got no meetings, so Loki is dragged away to pay for their meals. A short while later, they all settle down in the restaurant, and Riwell starts their celebration with a cheer. While eating, Alec still feels disbelief that he's in an S-ranked party. Ornest notices him mumbling and wonders if Alec thinks he doesn't deserve the rank without earning it. He gets angry and tells Alec to stop feeling like an imposter, but Alec reassures him that he's not thinking that way. Then, Ornest declares that the promotion is just the start of their journey to become the world's strongest and warns Alec that he'll beat him up if he tries to act like a sore thumb now. With his passionate declaration, everyone gets even more fired up. As they start ordering more food, Loki screams that his credit card is showing negative numbers. Later that night, Yorha gets tired from all the celebrating. Kreja believes Alec is the reason she's been so happy. Suddenly, Suddenly, the guild receptionist comes out and tells Kraja she's got a patient who needs urgent help. Kraja follows her inside and heals the patient, and the receptionist thanks her for the help. Noticing many other injured adventurers in the room, Kraja wonders how so many people got hurt. The receptionist explains that recently, a criminal group called the Shadow Guild has been targeting adventurers. Just then, Leviel enters the room with another group of injured adventurers and brings Kraja along, explaining that this girl is Olivia from Nameless. He leaves her to handle the situation, and Kraja begins checking Olivia's wounds. Noticing the large scars on her body, she wonders if Olivia was attacked by melee swordsmen. As Kraja thinks about letting the girl rest, she suddenly wakes up and asks where she is. Kraja tells her she's in the guild, since the guild master brought her here for treatment. Kraja asks Olivia what happened to her in the dungeon, and she gets mad as she remembers a traitor. Confused, Kraja asks who she's talking about, but Olivia gets up to find the person who betrayed her. Kraja tells her to lie down since her body can't handle it, but Olivia thinks she can still fight with some quick healing. However, Kraja stubbornly refuses and tells her that if she keeps pushing herself with those injuries, she'll end up destroying her body. Angered, Olivia tells her that she can't understand how she feels, but she falls back on the bed from exhaustion. As she falls asleep, Kraja starts cleaning her wounds with a wet cloth. Noticing all the scars on her body, she realizes that Olivia also has many old injuries from countless battles. Olivia is one of the kingdom's best sword fighters, so Kraja wonders who could have done this to her. Finally, she casts a healing spell on her to help her recover faster. After putting in so much effort, Kraja falls asleep beside the bed and stays with Olivia until morning. Meanwhile, Alec reads a book on the Arcana dungeon to perform some research. Suddenly, a boy sitting in front of him interrupts his reading. Alec wonders why the boy knows his name, but he simply asks Alec to buy some ice cream first. As they sit in the ice cream parlor, Alec watches the small boy devour their entire stock. He reminds the boy to introduce himself, so he reveals that his name is Luorg from the S-rank party, Nameless. Luorg explains that he wanted to talk about Alec because he's been curious about how much stronger he's gotten. Alec asks what he thinks of him, and Luorg tells him he's the perfect replacement. Alec is confused, but the cheerful boy invites him to join his team for their next trip to the Labyrinth dungeon. That was episode 6. Subscribe to not miss the next part and watch the next video on screen.